However, talking about cutting pay, we've got to move on to cutting other things now, right? Because anti-male circumcision groups, bolstered by proposals to ban the ritual for boys in Iceland, hope to pressure the British Medical Association to condemn the practice in Britain. Roughly 4% of boys born here are circumcised. The BMA outlines best practice, but takes no position on whether the non-medical ritual is ethical. Senior rabbis and imams have said that a move to ban the practice contravenes their religious freedom. I used to unreservedly support this right, but having since researched it, and despite the serious religious taboos around me saying so, I became unable to justify removing someone else's body parts without their consent, especially without any medical grounds. As a Muslim who's been circumcised, I'm no longer convinced the religious freedom argument holds. Circumcision is imposed as the parent's religious choice on their baby. The boy is given no say. As such, it is the exact opposite of religious freedom. Now, as painful as it is, for me and others to adapt our cultural identity, I think it's time we raise the age of consent for circumcision to 16.
I actually think circumcision is an act of faith. I think for Jewish people, it's a non-negotiable part of their identity. Arguably, it's an essential part of Judaism. And you mentioned Iceland want to outlaw this. It's actually even been mooted here. That would mean that religious Jews or Muslims would have to leave a country or abandon a sacred part of their tradition. You know, I know it's been sold as a human right in Iceland, but for me, it's an aggressive form of secularism. And you know what happens with aggressive secularism? It can become totalitarianism, where the state tells you how to live, what your way of life should be like, how you can bring up your kids. This would subvert a parent's right on what to do with his or her child.
So this is actually the opposite of that. It's not the state telling you how to live your life.
It would be in Iceland if the law passed.
No, it's not. It's the state asking parents not to force their views on the child until the child's old enough to know.
It's a part...
Now, the thing
I
is,
just said at the start of this, it's a non-negotiable part of the Jewish identity.
Let me speak to what I know about, which is the Muslim identity. I'm not going to speak on behalf of Jews, and there are sensitivities around that. But what I will say is that actually, having undergone the procedure, I've had to face a choice recently as to whether I repeat the procedure for my one-year-old child. So I looked into this extensively and felt such a shame. Such a stigma and taboo. In my own community, I know that I'll be seen as a traitor for saying what I'm saying now. However, what I found is that removing up to 50% of functioning penile skin that has about 5 of the most sensitive parts of the penis, that without medical grounds, of course, if there are medical reasons, if there is something that's going to go wrong, that's different. But doing that based upon my beliefs, doing that to a child without asking them first, I don't think that I can argue it's religious freedom, because actually it's the child's religious freedom that I should be thinking of, not my preferences.
Some people would say you are safeguarding your child's health. Circumcised...
Well, no, there's no evidence.
Circumcised boys are 22 times less likely to get penile cancer. It is known to slow the spread of HIV. In America, 3/4 of all male babies are circumcised on health grounds.
When I say I looked into it, please trust me that these stats that are thrown around, right, like the HIV...
So you're the only person who knows it?
No. What I'm saying is, like, because it's happened to me and because I was about to do it to my son, I'm saying I took it seriously enough to look at the evidence and the counter-studies, right?
When I talked about secularism before turning into totalitarianism, in Iceland, where they're debating this, there are something like 250 Jews and 1,500 Muslims. What do you think that says? Why is it so important in a country that has that? To me, that smacks of totalitarianism.
It's really interesting that you're suddenly defending the rights of Muslims.
And also,
is it? Well, why would it be interesting? As I'm married to a Muslim, why would it be that interesting to you?
Because I think ordinarily, when it comes to these sorts of discussions, you're not concerned about their feelings, and I'm saying that actually this is a conversation about feelings. This is what it is.
Let's get young June in.
Yeah, well, because the thing is, it's interesting. For me, I come from a culture that circumcises its boys, and so I am torn over this issue in terms of whether or not I think it should be banned in general. Obviously, you cannot compare it to female circumcision, and my culture does not practice FGM. But as I am so against FGM and I'm so against female circumcision, And obviously, you don't have the same medical. No, I know you don't have the same medical implications.
Can't talk about it in the same breath.
But what I'm saying is that maybe actually what we need to get to is to ban it altogether.
Have you looked at the lighter form of female? Hold on, Carol. Hold on. Carol, give us a second.
No, but Carol, why is it that you're so incensed around this, but yet you're against hijabs per se?
Yeah, that's what I meant about the feelings
difference
comment.
about
You're suddenly concerned about people's feelings.
Yeah,
Is this not the case?
Because that's not written into
yes,
the,
well, that's
the Quran.
It's an interpretation.
Of course it is. It depends who you ask.
We must get Karen in a minute.
Can I just ask? June said something. I just want to ask it on the female side of things, right?
Obviously,
the lighter
you can't
form
compare
of
the two, I know.
on the lighter form you can, right? So the lighter form of female circumcision involves just removing the tip of the skin over the clitoris, the lighter form.
Yeah.
Now, nobody would ever countenance doing that, right? And yet it's actually quite comparable to male circumcision, and that's why when I thought about it, I thought I'm being a hypocrite. That was a nit.
Quick sentence from me, then let's get Karen. Surely the system is working. You can choose to do what you do with your little boy, and I'm sure it will be guided by parental and fatherly wisdom. Good luck to you. So you don't want to do it, but you could even. I think the system works as it is. That's what I'd say.
What about the adults who it's done too and then grow up and then decide they don't want it?
But they're children,
But
and they are
when they grow up,
or they are
Muslim,
or they are whatever.
So when they grow up, and what if they didn't want that procedure done to them?
Should choose.
When
they were babies. No one asked them their permission.
But 8 days, you can't. I think it's 8 days.
For Jews, it's 8 days. I'm not going to speak on behalf of Jews. That's not my place. Yeah.
The one point that there is no comparison with female genital
At all.
mutilation.
No,
I mean, that is barbaric, that is banned, that is illegal and awful.
Yeah, indeed.
Here we've got something that the medical proof shows that actually there is no great difference between the two. So it's not something that is harming the boy.
Indeed.
There are religious reasons why it's done, which we've discussed with the Jewish community, the Muslim community. There are also cultural in many African communities.
Yes, in my community.
It happens at a much older age. There, when they're approaching puberty around 13 years old, tends to be the age that they have to do it. It's very painful. And they do it because of cultural reasons. So you have religious reasons, you have cultural reasons. But in this country, we have free choice as individuals. So if an individual like you, you're a Muslim, but you said, I don't want to do this for my child, you didn't do it. Now, but other people, through their religious beliefs, feel they have to do it. Now, when you talk about parental control, how many other things do parents control that we had no choice about as children?
So this is where I was going to. This is where I was going to correct something, right? So I didn't exercise. This is where I think it's being framed wrong. I didn't exercise my religious freedom to choose not to do it. That's actually not how I think it should be framed. What the choice I made was to allow my child to have their own religious freedom to choose for themselves, rather than impose my views on my child. And that's the correct framing, because what we're doing, unlike choosing which school our child goes to, unlike, for example, dressing our child in a particular way, we're making an irreversible choice to remove up to 50% of the functioning penile skin. When you talk about no harm, yes, there's no illness that results from it, but there is a harm, and that harm has been proven scientifically that we reduce the sensation around the penis, which is the pleasure that the male enjoys from sexual intercourse, because of a choice we've made for the child, and the child didn't have a say in it. That's why the system isn't working at the moment.
We could carry on discussing this for a while, and I'm next after the break, and I'm going to be talking about everyone's favorite topic. Chocolate.